Part 4, The Practice of Healing. Chapter 12, The Mindfulness of Emotion. Feelings, whether of compassion or irritation, should be welcomed, recognized, and treated on an absolutely equal basis because both are ourselves. The tangerine I am eating is me. The mustard greens I am planting are me. I plant with all my heart and mind. I clean this teapot with the kind of attention I would have were I giving the baby Buddha or Jesus a bath. Nothing should be treated more carefully than anything else. In mindfulness, compassion, irritation, mustard green plant, and teapot are all sacred. Thich Nhat Hanh, The Miracle of Mindfulness, in Introduction to the Practice of Meditation. Dr. David Hawkins talks about the power of mindfulness in his book, Healing and Recovery. This information is important to know because many who have healed from a very difficult disease or health problem have ultimately discovered the deeper truths about who and what they are. These truths, once realized, can drive healing into the physical body. Our physical body cannot experience itself. A hand cannot experience itself. Something greater than the hand has to be able to recognize the movements, sensations, and experiences that one is having in the hand. That is the mind. The body is always experienced by the mind. The mind is composed of thoughts, feelings, emotions, and belief systems. Through the mind, we have a thought or feeling about the hand. My hand is hurting, swollen, or bruised. My mind, or the mind, is having an experience of the hand. Therefore, the mind governs the body. On the level of mind, we begin to see that a thought or emotion cannot experience itself. The mind cannot experience itself. A thought cannot have an awareness of itself. A part of you exists that knows it is having a thought or experiencing an emotion. This is consciousness, which is even greater than the mind. Consciousness governs the mind. Beyond consciousness is pure awareness. The dictionary definition of identifying with something means to make the same. Most people in the world are highly identified with their bodies and the mind. One of the most important things to learn in life is to unidentify with the body and the mind. We think we are our bodies and minds, yet this is not true at all. We think we are our looks, abilities, talents, associations, jobs, money, relationships, thoughts, beliefs, opinions, and emotions. But we are not. We must learn to stop identifying with those things. Many people look at me crazy when I suggest that healing needs to occur on a level far beyond the body in order to heal the physical body. When we surrender the I, me, mine expression of the ego, we can then learn to identify with the truth of ourselves. We say, this is my body. No, it is just a body. This is my opinion. No, it is just the ego reinforcing itself through the mind. We can learn to identify with that which is aware of the mind within us. The more we learn to identify with this aspect of ourselves, the more we will see who we really are and that we can completely heal. Everything with the body and mind can change instantly. Why would we ever want to identify with something like the body or mind that can shift like sand in a moment's time? All emotion, thought, and sensation is experienced in the physical body. The first step in healing is actually to create awareness and become intimate with how we are genuinely experiencing our bodies. Most people have never really paid any attention to their body on an intimate level. Have you ever just sat down and noticed, for example, the pain you have in your arm? How most of us experience pain, especially if the pain is intense, is to numb it by taking an over-the-counter medication, hoping it will just go away. We try to run away from it, not embrace it, welcome it, and notice it. At this point, the temptation for people with depression or any health problem might say, I know what I am experiencing in my body really well. I feel the pain and symptoms every day. And while this is true, layers of truth exist beyond this, just as there are different layers of perception in the body. The four levels are body, then mind, then consciousness, then pure awareness. One may be aware of the pain, but may be completely missing the reason for the pain deep inside, what it means, and the emotions that may be contributing to the problem. Many are in reality very unaware of why they have their health problem on a physical, emotional, or mental level. They have no way to decipher its messages, so they ignore them or take medications to put a Band-Aid on them. But when the question is asked, do you know why you have depression? It is evident in many people that they really have no idea what is underlying the depression. A world of meaning is sitting behind it. I choose to see pain and health problems as God using something to draw you into your own story so that you can grow, change, and identify with your inner beingness. Nothing like human suffering forces us to grow and deal with what's on the inside of us. If you were to have asked me this question while I was right at the height of my depression, I would have said I had no idea why I was really depressed. Depression, or any other health problem we experience, may be 100% related to the trauma we went through when we were younger. This health problem is our body's way of getting our attention and truly being able to heal that part of us from the past. Your body always keeps the score. The good news is that when you delve into the depths of your being and become familiar with that which is inside of you, then you will progressively begin to experience the ecstasy of love and joy. 2 steps exist on the road to emotional freedom. The first step is awareness. Awareness is a term that can be used interchangeably with mindfulness. Mindfulness is being fully present and aware of how one is experiencing the present moment at all times. Mindfulness is being aware of all the thoughts, emotions, judgments, perceptions, opinions, and beliefs one is having in the moment. Mindfulness is observation, being in a state of non-judgment towards anything one is experiencing. Included in being fully aware of the present is how the past is playing itself out in the present moment, including what we experience in the body as health problems. The mind is the ground on which our emotions, thoughts, belief systems, and programs can be seen and play themselves out. It is the movie screen that we are watching where the whole scene of our life is being acted out. Scientist Dr. Bruce Lipton has mentioned that 5% of what we experience is only what we are consciously aware of at this moment. It is the other 95% that is subconscious or unconscious that most of us are completely unaware of. Most people would like to think that they are aware of why they react the way they do, why they have the health problems they have, and exactly what to do to be the best and healthiest versions of themselves. But as the state of health in the United States exhibits, we see that mindfulness is something that we sorely lack today. Mindfulness or awareness can take shape in many different ways. Physically, our bodies are in a constant dance of reacting to things that have built up inside of us for decades and also simultaneously things we experience acutely. Recently, I had some friends of mine tell me how they are so frustrated because their 3-year-old son was getting ear and sinus infections almost every month. It was getting so bad that they were considering having ear tubes put in. Through observation, mindfulness, and awareness clinically, I have seen what the cause of this is in most cases. I asked the mother if he drinks cow's milk. Her response was, "He loves cow's milk." I told her to stop giving him cow's milk immediately and replace it with organic almond milk. She did this immediately, and after 6 months had passed, I received a text stating that he hadn't had a single ear infection since they discontinued the consumption of dairy. Dairy, or infant formula, is the culprit behind most infants and toddlers getting ear infections. It is a horrible food that no child should consume. However, she was not aware or mindful that this was the problem. Most people are not. Once someone becomes aware or more mindful, different choices can be made, leading to a greater experience of health and vitality. We simply don't know what we don't know. However, we can constantly seek and search for answers so that we can become more mindful. Having said this, so many things happen in our world that we are unaware of. In this chapter, the goal is simply to highlight things that are vitally important to how we learn, grow, and change. Becoming more mindful is the first step towards real, sustained inner growth. Becoming intimately familiar with how we experience what is within us is the pathway towards the freedom and joy we all seek. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The later procedure, however, is disagreeable and therefore not popular. C.G. Jung. What are the most common things to be mindful of that can help us to discover the pathways towards emotional freedom? Number 1, become aware of the emotional states that you are in every moment of every day. On a January morning in 2018 at the clinic, I was trying to get to the bottom of why a patient was depressed, so I asked, "What do you think are the main emotions that are fueling why you feel the way you do?" After a few moments of silence, the patient's response was, "I don't really know." This response is fairly common. We don't pay attention to what we feel, so we don't spend much time contemplating the very emotions we find ourselves feeling from moment to moment. We cannot expect to become intimately familiar with someone if we do not spend a significant amount of time being curious, questioning, listening, and observing and noticing every little thing about them. In the same way, we will never become intimately familiar with how we experience the world if we do not do the same things with our emotions. Have you ever just allowed yourself to consciously and purposely be with a single emotion for more than 15 minutes? When people do this, the discovery that takes place opens us up to a whole new world. This is the fulfillment of the dictum, know thyself. Number 2, become aware of the cornerstone events or experiences where our emotions were planted in our subconscious for the first time. In my own healing journey, one day I wrote a list of the most negative memories I could remember having before the age of 18. This list has over 110 memories on it. When processing through them one by one, I would have so many aha moments realizing that with certain memories started the beginning of behaviors, beliefs, programming, and emotions that greatly affected me from those moments forward. All of these things are waiting to be explored by you as well. Number 3, become aware of the emotions that drive us to behave the way we do. So many people have sugar cravings these days. We tend to reach for sugar more when we are under times of stress. The other day I asked a patient when she tended to have more sugar cravings. She mentioned it was in the middle of the afternoon at work. When I asked her why she thought that was, she replied, "I just get stressed out." I pressed a little further and asked, what are the exact emotions that you commonly experience under stress that pushes you to do this? After some moments of pensive thought, she answered, "I have no idea." For her workload often increases in the afternoon, and she is under a deadline to complete the work. Therefore, she often feels overwhelmed. Overwhelm is an emotion within the family of fear. She is constantly afraid that the work will not get done and won't be done right because she has to rush to finish it. She is afraid because at times the work is very hard and difficult to understand and process. If she fails, she will feel like a failure. She will also feel guilty, ashamed of herself, and angry that she won't be able to do her job the way that she wants to. The sugar is a way to feel better instantly in moments where we don't feel good. Because she is in such an emotional state, she reaches out for the sugar to feel better. We've all done this many times very unconsciously. Sugar temporarily covers or blocks our experience of stress, pain, and negative emotions. We feel badly, and since we are programmed to avoid pain and pursue pleasure, what better way to feel better than to fire up the feel-good hormones in the body through the consumption of sugar and getting a dopamine hit? But something within us doesn't want to feel like a slave to sugar or our emotions. We want to be free not to eat sugar. We want to be free to consume it when we are fully and consciously making a choice that isn't arising to cover something up negative that we are experiencing at the moment. Behind our deepest cravings for things is usually deep and complex emotions and programs that are unconsciously running in the background, waiting for us to discover what they are and to surrender them so that we can be free. In a true you and I relationship, we are present mindfully, non-intrusively, the way we are present with things in nature. We do not tell a birch tree it should be more like an elm. We face it with no agenda, only an appreciation that becomes participation. I love looking at this birch becomes, I am this birch, and then I and this birch are opening to a mystery that transcends and holds us both. David Rico, from When the Past is Present, Healing the Emotional Wounds That Sabotage Our Relationships. Number 4, become aware of why we say the things we say or do the things we do. We all have said and done things that we regret. After we have said or done something regretful, we often ask ourselves why we did such a thing. It was as if what was said just escaped from us without any prior notice or notification. We acted without even realizing that what we were doing until it was too late. We were in the heat of the moment. We were living that moment unconsciously, mindlessly unaware. Then we come to our senses later on and ask others for forgiveness for what we said or did that we didn't truly mean. Number 5, become aware of how you are not your body. You are not your body. In fact, one of the points of being here on this planet is learning to emotionally unidentify with the physical body. We suffer in countless ways depending upon how emotionally attached we are to our body. Most people in this world are highly over-identified with their physical bodies. They think they are their physicality. Their identity largely rests on how they look, what they have accomplished, how much money they have, or who they know. But what we are is not something that can ever change. Love can never change, and that is what you are. We see this obsession in every facet of life. Men and women are obsessed with physical beauty. We even make alterations to our noses, breasts, hair, face, abdomens, and buttocks. Plastic surgery exists for all kinds of things today. We see magazines of photoshopped women to whom other women can never measure up. If you had a stunning face and then got into a car accident and were mangled, would you still be you? If you lost an athletic ability, would you still be you? If you had immense wealth and then lost it, would you still be you? Do you resist the process of getting older? Do you feel disgust towards the new lines, wrinkles, and saggy parts, or body parts that don't work like they used to? Think of all the ways we suffer because of how we experience our physical body or lose something we used to have. Because of how obsessed we are with the physical body in our society today, sometimes I will suggest an exercise to people. When you get out of the shower, stand there and observe how you feel when you look at every part of you. Do you feel the need to change things? Could you let go of needing or wanting to change a part of you? If you see the extra weight you are carrying around, how do you actually feel about the weight? Do you see yourself as beautiful or as ugly? Do you spend time constantly comparing yourself to others? Look at your muscles, face, skin, hair, breasts, hips, legs, hands, and feet. When you see each part, what emotions are stirred up inside you? Go to any gym and see people in the front of a mirror puffed up with loads of pride because of how the body looks. I was always super skinny growing up. I was made fun of for it. When I was in college, in an attempt to make up for my internal emotional deficiencies about how I felt lacking, I decided to lift weights and build muscle. People will surely like me if I have bigger muscles, right? I put on about 30 pounds, but it never changed how I felt about myself on the inside. So eventually that fantasy ended, and I stopped lifting weights. About a year ago, a woman I dated asked me one day in a tone that implied she wanted me to change for her, and she said, "Why don't you lift weights and build muscle?" I responded, "Because I've made peace with my body. I love my body the way it is. My only goal now is to simply be healthy." The road to this being a reality was in letting go of many negative emotions about how I felt about myself and my body. It is still a work in progress and may always be as I continue to change and grow. Number 6, become aware of how we are not the mind. We are not our emotions, thoughts, opinions, or beliefs. You are not your mind. Most of us have highly over-identified with the contents of our mind. You are not the thoughts, emotions, ideas, judgments, opinions, and positionalities you experience in the mind. Again, all of these things can change in an instant. Your true identity is not found in anything that can change in an instant. So we can stop identifying with such things and learn to identify progressively with that which we already are. Have you ever shared an opinion with someone only to have your opinion met by the other person with defensiveness and anger? We want the best for those we love, and if someone is doing something that we judge as being not as healthy or helpful as something else, we may wish to share something with them in an attempt to change that person. As crazy as it may sound, wanting to change someone, even though we try to disguise it as love, often is not love at all. We may feel afraid for someone making poor choices. We may feel grief or sadness over the choices another makes. We may feel guilty about someone making a choice that we know we contributed to. Our advice may actually be us simply projecting our own negative emotions onto someone else, and we may not even be aware of it. It is easy to say that we're being loving, but when we further examine our internal motives, the story might be more complex. I've been guilty of this many times. No one wants to be judged. I find that people really don't understand what judgment is, though. Judgment is when you share something and the energy driving what is being shared is negative. What is being said is one thing. The energy sitting behind what is being shared can be positive or negative. Let's say a friend is dating someone that I clearly see is going to only bring them heartache. I can say in a tone of anger, "What are you thinking? Why are you with this person? You are only going to get hurt." This may only spark anger and defensiveness. This is judgment. On the other hand, I could pay very close attention to the internal emotional state that I am in when I share. I release all of my anger about the situation first, and then in a loving state and a tone of voice, I could say, "Why do you think this person is good for you? Do you see any red flags that would lead others to think that this person may not be the best fit for you? Whatever choice you make, I don't think that this person is best for you, but I will love you in whatever choice you make." Such statements may also be met with anger and defensiveness, in spite of knowing that you communicated with love. Even if something is communicated in love, you may still get the following responses. "Why are you always against me? Why don't you want me to be happy? Why are you always so critical?" You cannot control how others react. In fact, their reactions are reflections of what is inside of them, not you. If you truly share something in love, what more can you do? The person they want to be with may crush their heart into a million pieces, and it may be the very best thing to help them grow emotionally and spiritually. So why rob them of their experience? But you can still share your thoughts with love, even in spite of others reacting negatively. Love's highest expression can actually be for someone to go through unspeakable pain and for you to learn to be at peace with this occurring. Nothing is a catalyst for growth like pain. Nothing. We seek to hold our thoughts and opinions loosely because often, even in a state of love, we don't know what someone actually needs, even if that is more temporary suffering. Can we experience love even when somebody we deeply care about is suffering deeply? Or does their suffering bring out your own suffering of fear, sadness, guilt, or anger? Have you ever met someone who has an opinion about everything? You bring up any subject and they are quick to share what they know. If you disagree with them, though, watch out. Whenever someone is very opinionated, another way to express this would be to say that they are very attached to their opinion. Remember, attachment is the root of suffering. It is also very difficult for such people to listen well to others or change their opinions about things. This attachment to their opinions can generate significant amounts of suffering. For such people, they think they are their opinions. When you disagree with them, it stirs up their internal suffering, and they can get very angry or defensive. Opinions can change, and expressing opinions with rigidity is not the healthiest expression of being. You are not your opinions, so learn to hold them loosely and lovingly. The emotion that expresses itself very vibrantly with heavily opinionated people is pride. Pride is the emotion that asserts itself as, "I'm always right," or "I need to be right." Pride is a very fragile emotion and is always just a reactionary emotion to a deeper emotion. Behind all pride is insecurity, which is fear. Insecurity is the primary driving emotion behind very opinionated people. Prideful people are actually just very scared and fragile, although this is the last thing a prideful person would admit to. It's hard to see beyond the pride in people at some times, but much of the time a significant amount of fear can be found. From this fear, pride is generated. For example, someone could have grown up believing that they don't matter, so they are afraid of not mattering or not being good enough. To make up for this, they learn to have opinions about everything to compensate for feeling like they don't matter on the inside. But this doesn't resolve the internal fear. It simply is just a defensive or reactionary position. Learning to surrender pride and holding your opinions with love, or learn to surrender pride and hold your opinions with love. If you find yourself trying very hard to convince someone of something, this is rarely love. You are not the contents of your mind. Your hand cannot experience itself. Something greater than the hand has to experience the hand. This is the mind. The mind sputters off details about the hand because it is experiencing it. My hand is large, small, strong, broken, hurt, painful. The mind cannot experience itself either. Something greater than the mind is aware that you have thoughts and feel emotion. This is consciousness itself. Learn to identify with this part of you. Learn to identify with the watcher or the witness of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Learn to altogether transcend and surrender the contents of the mind through conscious awareness. As you do, suffering, which is your emotionality, will progressively lessen as you fall into the essence of what you are, the essence of awareness, which is love and joy and peace. Number 7, become aware of others as we see beyond our own experiences and emotions. Have you ever been having a conversation with someone and you are everywhere else but actually in your conversation with that person? You may be having a conversation but are thinking about dinner, all the work you have to do at home, the fight you had with your husband or wife this morning, where to go on vacation next, or the growling in your stomach. You may be physically present, but you are anything but present. How can you really be present, listening, attentive, and tuned into the emotional state of the person sitting in front of you when you are only thinking about yourself? The more you step into, become aware of, and let go of the suffering inside of you, the more compassionate and aware you become of the suffering of others. You will learn to truly recognize suffering in others and be empathetic with it. As you continue to let go of what's inside of you, your mind will grow more and more silent and at ease. The incessant worrying, pondering, and thinking will soften as you continue to surrender. When this happens, you will automatically be able to see others more fully and be more present with them. At times, when you really want to tune into what others are truly feeling, you can actually develop this as an intuitive skill. Everyone has a feel to them, some more subtle than others. Everyone has met someone that has given you the creeps or made you feel more alive. What is that energy that you sense? Often people don't know what that is. They just simply sense it as something being off or different. But what if you could learn to descriptively and specifically know exactly what this is in another? What if you could develop this skill? You can do this simply as a byproduct of paying attention to what emotions you feel and how you experience those emotions releasing from your body. As you learn to identify and meditatively be with all of the different emotions inside of you and surrender how each one feels, you will develop a keen sense of recognizing when others are experiencing the same thing. Often in the clinic, I can sense, feel, recognize, and name emotions in others long before they recognize it in themselves. This can be intimidating to others, especially if they want them to stay hidden or are not used to truly being seen by another. It can kick up fear within people, but yet deep within, I think we all yearn truly to be seen by ourselves and others. We really do want to expose our heart and give from our heart into the world. What is there to be afraid of when one is truly open, vulnerable, loving, and free? Mindfulness, also called wise attention, helps us see what we're adding to our experiences, not only during meditation sessions, but also elsewhere. Sharon Salzberg from Real Happiness, The Power of Meditation. Number 8, become aware of how to release unwanted feelings, sensations, memories, and events from our body and our mind. How do we release an emotion? How do we let go and know with certainty that we are free? The reality is that our emotions are just as much a mystery to us as some of the other deeper mysteries on the planet. They don't have to be. Emotional intelligence is something that should be taught to us in every single grade growing up in school. Harvard psychologist Daniel Goleman wrote a book called Emotional Intelligence, outlining that emotional intelligence is a far more valuable thing to have than regular intelligence. People who are emotionally intelligent are more likely to get the jobs they desire, have more fulfilling relationships, be more secure spiritually, can adapt and respond to most situations with more peace, earn more money in life, and the list goes on and on. This is something that should be taught in schools from the moment we start attending. Think of the onslaught of emotions that children feel in school on a daily basis. In the back of Goleman's book, he discusses how they have implemented emotional intelligence activities in certain schools with some impressive results. How much more at peace would our world be if everyone were able to understand, be fully aware of, and release negative emotions at will, starting as children? While I love this book, the only critique I would offer is that books such as The Tapping Solution or The Sedona Method are better when it comes to actually learning how to release emotions from our consciousness. I think the book was wonderful at pointing out how awareness of our emotional states is critical. These other tools take emotional intelligence full circle by teaching how to actually let them go. As you can see, we all experience the world in many mindless, unconscious ways. We don't know why we do or say certain things. We don't always know how to change those things. We don't know what is affecting our health when the answer is oftentimes very simple. We don't know why the same patterns repeat in our relationships over and over again. Reasons exist for almost everything we experience on many different levels. We simply don't know what we don't know. But we can learn how to be mindful and to pay attention to things so that these insights arrive in our lives. How do we bring the unconscious conscious? By being mindful. How can we begin to change something unless we are first aware or conscious of it? Being mindful includes knowing how and what to pay attention to. The first step towards freedom is simply becoming aware of how we experience our world emotionally and physically. The second step to bringing the unconscious conscious is actually releasing those emotions. What emotional states do we commonly find ourselves in? What is driving those states? What memories and experiences from the past are driving how we experience the present moment? How do we experience these emotions in our physical body? Many health problems that we experience physically are simply just projections into the physical body that represent some emotional energy that we've been holding on to from the past. Sense experiences. Sight, sounds, smells, tastes, and touch are the sensory experiences we have in the physical body that are intricately linked together with our emotional experiences in life. Often certain senses get activated and stir emotion in both us negatively and positively. In every memory we have from the past, our senses have made associations that are very powerful. For example, if I worked in a coffee shop and went through a horrible breakup or didn't like my job, I might begin to despise the taste and smell of coffee. On the other hand, if I have wonderful memories getting coffee with people who I care for, I may love the taste and smell of it. It's warm, inviting, comforting, and stimulating. As you heal emotionally, it's really important to become mindful of what senses are linked together with the emotion you felt in any particular memory. Surrendering emotions. The first step towards emotional freedom is awareness. The second step is surrender. Using tapping to surrender emotions is very powerful. First, you identify how and what you feel. I feel cheated. Second, you ask why you felt an emotion. I feel cheated because I didn't get the promotion at work. Third, you make a setup phrase and tap through it. Even though I feel cheated for not getting the promotion at work, I choose to love and accept myself. Tap through it as many rounds as you need to in order to fully surrender it. Remember, it is not the words you use or the tapping so much, but instead your intention to actually let the feeling go. Intention to let go and surrender is the very most important aspect of healing. Besides tapping, two other resources have also been very inspirational in understanding and facilitating surrender and letting go. Those two books are The Sedona Method by Hale Dwoskin and Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender by Dr. David Hawkins. This quote below from Letting Go succinctly summarizes all that is needed to dissolve any feelings. Letting go involves being aware of a feeling, letting it come up, staying with it, and letting it run its course without wanting to make it different or do anything about it. It means simply to let the feeling be there and to focus on letting out the energy behind it. The first step is to allow yourself to have the feeling without resisting it, venting it, fearing it, condemning it, or moralizing about it and saying, I shouldn't have this feeling. It means to drop judgment and to see that it is just a feeling. The technique is to be with the feeling and surrender all efforts to modify it in any way. Let go of wanting to resist the feeling. It is resistance that keeps the feeling going. When you give up trying to modify the feeling, it will shift to the next feeling and be accompanied by a light sensation. A feeling that is not resisted will disappear as the energy behind it dissipates. People have no idea how powerful this process can be. Dr. Hawkins used this process to let go of many incurable personal health conditions. Lester Levinson, the gentleman who originally came up with the Sedona method, was given 6 weeks to live because of a massive coronary heart issue. Both of them surrendered the programs, memories, emotions, and sensations that were behind every one of the health problems they had, both completely healed and ended up living another 30 years or more in good health. Surrendering emotions is not a difficult thing. The mind likes to make it very complicated, but it is simple. The hardest part is not the process itself, but simply allowing yourself to feel and then surrender whatever it is that's coming up for you and what a health problem represents to you. Facing your pain may be the most difficult thing that you ever do. For me, it's been the hardest thing I've ever done. But I would do it repeatedly because on the other side of pain is freedom, love, joy, and peace. Nothing compares to being able to genuinely experience those things in your life.